What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today we're gonna do my 20-hour review on the ROG Ally. And before we get started, you're gonna notice that there's some stuff on here. I'm still working on a nice grip for this thing because it is not very comfortable. This is the latest version of the grip. One thing I'm noticing is you need to thicken up the back quite a bit to get like a really nice comfort grip. This is kind of just held with some your boy's favorite thing, hot glue, because it's just a test piece and it's not fitting the best. Now that's probably because of the glue. It feels a lot easier to hold. Like this right here, this is the third version, I think. It's very small in comparison. It's hard to one hand this like that. This easy to one hand. Soup because there's just more to hold. Grip right here needs to be closer together. That's probably because of the way I glued it. Put way too much glue. This is not what this video is about. It's actually, this was double-sided sticky tape. It's not about that. It's not about any of that. We're talking about the ROG Ally. Obviously, the grip is an issue. There are some comfort grips that you can get on Etsy and stuff like that. But I feel like you don't want to add to the front of this thing. For my testing, my purposes, you don't want to add to the front of this thing. It is pretty, it's a good feel. So you just want to be kicked out slightly and you want more gumption in the back to hold it. And I think that's what the angle I'm going for. But hopefully my friend that has allowed me to borrow this thing, play with it, and to help him make the grips. Hopefully he will like it. If not, it was a complete waste of time. All right, so after 20 hours of play, if we're just talking about aesthetics, couple just issues here. Obviously, grip is bad, really bad. These triggers, as nice as they are, I prefer the grip on the Steam Deck quite a bit. I don't like the buttons. All feel very, very flimsy to me. I don't like them, but I do like the placement of the D-pad. So if we pull out my Steam Deck, this is the Mark IV. I do not like where this D-pad is placed, but then this also doubles as a D-pad here on the touchpad. Which is nice. It's nice. And having both buttons up here is nice too, but then you do kind of get them mixed up quite a bit. Other than that, yeah, it's not bad. And then one more thing I want to add. I prefer the buttons on the Steam Deck versus these buttons. And overall, the joysticks, prefer the Steam Deck joysticks more. And that's it. That's about it for the aesthetics. But then who cares about the aesthetics, right? Just joking. So my main thing, first of all, let me just start off by, I love this thing. This thing is great, even though it has a lot of flaws aesthetically in the way you hold it. All those things can be fixed. The big issue, and real quick, this is my honest opinion. If you don't have a Steam Deck, buy an ROG Ally. $699 is a good price for this machine. But if you already have a Steam Deck, my suggestion is to stick with a Steam Deck. Do not sell it. Maybe you want to gift it. Maybe you gift your Steam Deck and then buy this one. But if you need to sell your Steam Deck to buy an ROG Ally, save your money. Don't buy an ROG Ally. Keep the Steam Deck. Run it for a couple years. This thing is going to be obsolete by next year. Easily. So I would suggest it's not worth it. Run this thing ragged. Steam Deck is still a great system. Once again, if you do not have a handheld and you want one, get the Ally, skip the Steam Deck. But if money is an issue, get the Steam Deck. But do not sell your Steam Deck to get an ROG Ally unless you're just going to gift it to somebody. You could sell it. I just don't recommend it. For me, if I was going to go to ROG Ally, what I would do is I would not even sell my Steam Deck because you would get $200 for it, 250. I wouldn't even sell it. I'd just gift it to my younger brother or sister, whoever I like the most at the moment, and then give it to one of them, and then buy one of these for myself. That's what I would purposely do, but I'm not going to do that because I already built them 2 PCs and upgraded them both recently, so they can go straight to hell. I'm not being a shill for Steam Deck. This is my honest opinion between the two. The greatest thing about the ROG Ally is just the screen. The screen is the nicest thing about it, but my main issue with the ROG Ally, the screen is in fact a big problem. That is because most of the time and I'm picking this game in particular because I play a lot of this game, and I think that's the way to do it. I don't know what you're playing, but I like this game. This game's one of my favorited games. If I could add my Switch time to this, I'd probably have close to 100 hours. It is drop dead gorgeous on 1080p. 1080p, we get some really nice. It looks great. Oh my god, this thing looks great. I always forget how good this thing looks. In town with these settings, let's just double check. So we're on average. All right, so in game, we're getting 60 frames here in Monster Hunter Rise, and we are currently at 1080p. Everything's at 120 hertz, and we're getting about 50, 56, somewhere on that 60, 65 range with average settings. One thing you'll see is we have a pretty good balance between the CPU and GPU, but definitely the CPU seems to be bottlenecking, or the overall TDP seems to be bottlenecking this game quite a bit. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and plug it in, and we're gonna go on to turbo mode. So that increases our wattage to 30 watts, and we are getting 102 frames in Monster Hunter Rise on average settings. One thing you're gonna notice, our temperature is through the roof. We're at 88 degrees, still fairly safe operating temperature. We're creeping into 90s, but man, this game looks great on the ROG Ally. All right, so let's go ahead and let's make it even a little bit better, and let's see what it looks like on high settings. Noticeably, I don't see too much of a difference. It doesn't look that much better, but our frames have dropped quite a bit. Now it is a bottleneck of the GPU and not so much of the CPU, and we're gonna just hover around that 60 and 54, 48, that our overall frames have dropped quite a bit. The issue is our GPU. And the reason why I went ahead and did that was because here on the Steam Deck, we're playing the exact same game. All right, while that updates, I want to talk about something really quick while that updates. And so this is one of my big problems with the ROG Ally when we're directly comparing it to the Steam Deck. And remember, my Steam Deck's overclocked. I thought about doing stock. If you're using your Steam Deck stock, you just stop. No, overclock it. I'm just saying, overclock it. But one thing you'll notice is we're not even hitting 60 frames on the ROG Ally on high settings. We're actually dipping into the 50, 54. But still, it looks amazing. It feels still pretty smooth. Not too many issues in the game that, overall looks pretty dang good to me. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that our power tools is on correctly. Power tools has always been an issue for me for whatever reason. Remember, this Steam Deck is overclocked to 24 watt TDP. We have 4,000 megahertz on the gigahertz on the CPU and 2,200 gigahertz on the GPU. And it's a pretty fast running Steam Deck. And I think we still have quite a bit of overhead left on it, just because a lot of the mods with the Mark IV backplate that we have done that will actually help keep this thing cooler. And this is actually one of the coolest running Steam Decks I have right now. because we did swap out the thermal pad with thermal paste because of some fitting issues on here. If you saw the Mark IV video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it is cool. We pushed this thing to the limit and we only peaked at 78 degrees pushing it. Real quick, between these screens, one thing you're going to notice, even though the Steam Deck screen is way brighter than, I don't know the nits exactly, but you could just tell just looking at the game that it is 100% brighter. And that way we can kind of see a side by side of what kind of is going on here in this game. And I'm going to use this area. Definitely see a difference on high on this scene. This is 1080, this is 800p. So definitely see a huge difference in visual fidelity. And gosh darn, it looks like not two different games. Almost two different games. Almost two different games. All right, so we're down here. We're at 800p, average settings, and I mean high settings, and we are averaging right down here by the water, right by the water. Let's look at this waterfall. So we have the exact same scene. We have solid 60 frames on the Steam Deck. Solid 60. And remember, this is overclocked. Solid 60 frames on the Steam Deck, where we're getting only 54 frames on ROG Ally. If we dumb down the ROG Ally, and one thing about this interface is amazing on ROG Ally right here. It is nice how easy it is to switch between modes, way easier than the Steam Deck. We dumb down to 720p in this screen, then we're getting some really proper frames here on the ROG Ally, and still it clearly looks better than the Steam Deck. And that's because pixel density, because this is 1080p going down to 720, this is 800p straight. This is always going to have a better screen, even though you drop down the resolution total, it's just going to always look better. But if we're looking at pure frames, this is now beating it at 84 frames. And the reason why I am bringing this up, this is the main reason why I'm bringing this up. And then this is the thing, my crux about the ROG Ally, and the thing that annoys me about it the most, and something I've felt about it since the beginning, is the issue is that the screen on the ROG Ally is too good for the hardware. It is too good for the hardware. It is too good for the hardware. At $899, this thing was not worth it whatsoever. At $699, its new price, it's definitely worth it. But I very much dislike how the screen is so much worse than its hardware. And it drives me crazy. I would have much preferred them to keep a 1080p, 60, maybe 75 hertz screen, gone with that, and then sold it for $100 less. Would have been amazing. Imagine this thing at $599 with a 75 hertz screen. It would be gorgeous. No one's going to be running 120. To only run 120, you have to dumb down the graphics, and then you have to dumb down the resolution, and then you could probably hit the 120 hertz. There is no reason why this thing needs to be 120 hertz. And I get it. The argument is you can plug in an eGPU. That's the argument, right? Yeah. You can plug in an eGPU if you want to spend at least another $800 to it. So now you have a $1,600 machine. At that point, we're at gaming laptop territory, like high-end gaming laptop territory with independent graphics cards, and we can build a PC at that point, and even buy a Steam Deck. We can build a PC and buy a Steam Deck, and then do Steam Link to these two things, and that's my next topic. So that's my biggest issue with this, and it just annoys me. It's more an annoying thing, and yes, it's always good to have more overhead, but the fact is the hardware here is not going to keep up with the screen unless you tie in an external GPU. You're landlocked to this thing unless you tie in an external GPU, and I think that's the biggest freaking issue to me about the ROG Ally. It's that I wish they made the screen a little bit worse, meaning they dumbed down the hertz, kept it 1080p, but dumbed it down to 75 hertz, because 75 and 60, night and day. night and day. Oh, then this would be by far, hands down, easily a Steam Deck killer, because the price, the performance would have been epic, in my opinion. Epic. Now, let's talk about another thing that is an issue with this. The ROG Ally should always be running Windows. It works immaculate Windows. I'm not even going to test it on Linux because it works great on Windows. These features, all this stuff, I love this stuff. It works great. I think, yeah, it works great. Problem: Windows is still kind of a pain to be running versus running Linux, SteamOS on your Steam Deck. Still a huge pain. And mainly, another problem is a game called Warhammer 40K. Barely runs on the ROG Ally, runs like crap. And it makes sense. It doesn't run well on my PC itself. It's not a good running game. It's not well optimized, and it's very demanding. But you dumb it down to 1080p, you can stream the two together from your Steam Link. So I Steam Linked it from my Steam Deck. Works amazing. Very low latency. Same as this one down here. The ROG Ally, it looks great. A little bit of pixelation just from, it's your streaming, not, it's way, you get dumbed down when you're not doing onboard. But the reason why I bring that up is just using Steam Link on the ROG Ally sucks. It sucks. The controllers don't work properly. It's glitchy. It pops. It is terrible experience. I would not ever recommend using Steam Link, or maybe even at all with the ROG Ally. You have to stay on board with this thing because it's crap, and it's maybe there's workarounds, but I'm not willing to spend the time to work around it. I just know that it works freaking seamless with SteamOS on the Steam Deck, and it doesn't work well on the ROG Ally whatsoever. And I guess that's it. That's my 20 hours of using the ROG Ally. And like I said, oh man, I love this thing. I think it's great. I just have some points. I just wish they dumbed it down a little bit so they can, the hertz on the screen, so they can made it a little bit cheaper. If this thing came in at $599, this thing should sell off the shelves. By far, I would have loved that with a 75 hertz screen, because you're not really going to use that 120. Now 120, I'd rather have medium to high settings at 75 hertz than anyone, but maybe if someone wants to do 120 frames and a screen this small, whatever. I get, that's to each his own. But for me and my use case, I think rocking the 75 hertz would have been perfect for the ROG Ally. I guess that's it. Yeah. So if you don't have a handheld, buy a ROG Ally. Even at $699, I still think it's great for the price. But if you can't flex that, this is still on sale till the 12th. So depending on when this video comes out, these things are 20% off the large one, 15% off the medium one. It's the 256 one like that I got, and then 10% off the EMC 64 one. That's a great price for what you get. This is just like, you got money to burn kind of thing. And also, please don't sell your Steam Deck to buy one of these. Just maybe donate it and then buy one of these. Or when I say donate, you may give it to a sibling or something. If you're selling it to buy one of these, I think you should just hold off. This thing will be obsolete pretty soon. Obsolete pretty soon. And why waste the time and the money? Just enjoy your Steam Deck while the hardware is still pretty decent. Steam Link works great. I just wish that this thing was slightly cheaper. That's really ultimately what I want, is for this thing to be slightly cheaper, because I still think it's a little too expensive. You can buy a PS5. Yes, it's not handheld, but that's pretty cool. It's still pretty. It's prices itself out. But that's just my take, guys. If you enjoy this kind of content, please hit that like, hit that subscribe, and if you don't want to miss another episode, hit that ding notification. But other than that, guys, my name is DIY Poppy. I'll catch you on the next one.